Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Art Blocks After Dinner Mints discussion. My name is Panyo, and I'm joined by Art Blocks founder and creator Snowfro,
Hey, everybody.
and our special guest this evening, Kai. Kai, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you and put a name to a face. Just to give everyone a little bit of background, besides being a generative artist, you have 25 years of experience in building digital products. You've been in the NFT space since 2017, and you're known also for cracking the CryptoKitties DNA code, which I want to talk about a little bit later on. You also sit as advisor for some of the leading projects in the space, including NFT 42, Sound Obsessed, and Block: But yeah, welcome.
Yeah.
And thanks for being here. I just want to go ahead and just get into it.
Cool.
How did you get into generative art? Like how did you learn about art blocks? How did you meet Snowfro and the team?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of that sort of coincides with each other because I guess what I was doing prior to meeting Eric Snowfro and talking about art blocks and the possibilities there was I was just doing a lot of experiments on my own. So I worked in the past. I've worn a lot of different hats. In the past, I worked in game design, and one of the things I was doing was just using kind of game design uh, techniques, so like HTML games in the canvas, and just doing fun and generative stuff out of that, really to it was like something I would do outside of work, just to blow off steam or just to experiment and to see what I could create. So it wasn't until and then as you mentioned, I got into the NFT space, but I hadn't really connected those two things until Eric and I don't actually know how we met. We met, I think, via being in the same circles and knowing the same folks, and we know some folks that are. We know Nate. I think is the connection via Nate.
I think I met you with Top Shot. I mean, I think that's kind of where I really started saying your name a lot is in the Top Shot Discord.
Right. Yeah, so I was into Top Shot early, but I know also Nate from Nate and Jim and those folks do a lot of on-chain, block on-chain, art on-chain work, and so we were all talking about this art on-chain movement, and Eric was big into that and talking about the generative art on-chain side of things and launching the platform. So really, I was watching closely as Art Blocks was coming to fruition, and just wanted to get involved and see if I could bring some of what I was doing, just for myself on my hard drive, and into to create a generative NFT. So that was really the start of it and the introduction of what was going on in the space. But yeah, I mean, there's another project that still hasn't seen the light of day called NF Tartans that I was working on prior to that, where I really wanted to do generative tartans. But yeah, maybe I'll do that one day.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So your first curated project was 27-bit digital, which I'll throw out there is one of the pieces that's in the lot for the Sotheby's auction that will end later this week. So that project, the piece pays tribute to our digital legacy of 8-bit color and 7-segment LED displays. Do you want to kind of tell us a little bit about that project, how that came to fruition, and if you have any favorite mints or some things that surprised you?
Yeah, so that goes back to, so this is kind of the project that I've been working on in 2014, which was just, I was kind of obsessed with this idea of, so for me, I was doing computer graphics from being a child on my, Apple IIe computers when everything was kind of, you're programming bit by bit. And I was really fascinated by this idea of, when you had a limited color palette. So if you only had, 8 colors to work with, you were getting adventure games and everything that were just using those colors as patterns and creating lots of different colors, other palettes out of that. So that was, I started playing around with that as a generative pattern maker, which is what it, so basically using 2x2 square patterns, as you see in the zoomed in version, and within that using just every combination of RGB. So you have red, green, and blue, cyan, magenta, and yellow, in white and black, and just seeing like what patterns that can come out of that. So kind of the childhood question that I have of like how many patterns are even possible, and is it possible to visualize all the patterns? I was able to answer, however many years later, just by creating this pattern generator. So that was something I liked playing with, and there's 4,096 different patterns that you can generate out of that. So that's always something that I've revisited. And then when I wanted to do the art blocks project with 27-bit digital, that I was just thinking more deeply about what excited me about that generative art and that process. And it was really about revisiting all these kind of analog, as analog was becoming digital, all these sorts of things that fascinated me in my youth. So things like 7-segment displays and again the patterns. And I thought about merging those two, but also being in the crypto collectibles space and CryptoKitties and all this. I was thinking about the idea, and people, we don't emphasize rarities in art blocks, but people think a little bit. People think about the rarities. I really like this idea that you could use a uniform distribution. So it's like equal chances of any of these, the 7 segments lighting up. If they're all lit up, it looks like an 8. But out of that, you still get some rare patterns. So you get alphanumeric, or you get, one that looks like a face, or you get, numbers. So I like the idea that even out of this, and then with the patterns as well, you get scan lines. You get this particular pattern is one that I like, that I call highlighter, just because it looks, when you zoom out, it looks like you have kind of a cyan highlighter going over a yellow highlighter. So you get these interesting patterns, but it's really just a uniform distribution of odds. So I like the fact that you get these rarities, but they're not kind of designed in. It's just the way it's kind of how you perceive the patterns just as a human being. So you just naturally kind of pattern matching and picking these things out. So that was the idea behind it.
Yeah, and it's cool because when I remember was seeing those mints come out, there were letters and numbers and all these different combinations, and people were trying to form certain words using several different mints. Were there any mints in particular that you really liked or that stood out in your mind?
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't expect. I mean, that one went really quickly. Like I was kind of thinking, oh, I'll hang back and I'll get some letters, and I might be able to spell some cool things. But I didn't actually get any of the letters. I mean, the one that I really was looking out for was the one that looks like a face, and I call that an auto. So that was one that I liked. The highlighter, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I think all the patterns. I mean, I think people were finding. I mean, someone found one that I hadn't even thought of, just calling it, like 3 bars and calling that the Ethereum, pattern. So I just like to see like what people came up with. And one guy found I think a way of making an R that I hadn't thought of. It's like missing a segment, but yeah, he uses that as his avatar. It's almost looks like an R,
That's
which is
awesome.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I know one of the people in the community, OX Houston, he got a letter H, and I thought that was cool. And I don't know, it's just nice to see those different combinations and people like searching for specific mints that kind of like speak to them. And I think that's like part of the cool thing about being a collector and a part of the space. So I knew right after that project, you released a playground project called Pixel Glass, which was fun. It was it's basically I know you created it where if you collected a mint from the 27-bit digital and as well as a pixel glass mint, then you were going to send them a physical piece of that mint on I don't know, like a small digital screen essentially. Do you want to kind of like talk about like how you came up with that idea? And
Yeah, so sure. So that's this is an example of that. Like this isn't so I don't know if folks saw it before. Like this is the glass NFT that went out, and then I just ran a kind of manual thing where people can still do this, even if they want to. If they have a 27-bit digital and they have a pixel glass, they can just send me the pixel glass, and I'll create these glass 27-bit digital prints. So they're not screens. They're
Okay.
glass prints. But yeah, I mean, I think that, and that came out of, so prior to NFTs, I was working for Moo, the card company, and I was doing physical to digital stuff. So I was talking about tokenization and things, but it was about chips in cards, so printed electronics in cards, and NFC, not NFT. So that's why I always tend to think of like, what are the ways in which there's a physical to digital overlap, and I think with all the stuff I'm doing, I'm always thinking of how can I create a physical representation of it. So I've been, all the projects I tend to follow up with either you can get a print, or I try to think of like what's a different format for each of those projects.
Mm-hmm. Was that the one that you just showed recently with like the different pixel glasses on the actual glass? Was it the bottom left one? Is that the face you're talking about?
Yeah. So that's the face.
That's
That's
cool.
not mine.
Yeah, I like the one on the top right, which looks like a little line above an O, and
Yeah.
I think it's very cool. So after those two projects, I know you're currently have a factory project with dadabots. It's a collab.
Hmm.
That's a generated music in 40 to 140 bytes on chain, and some of the ByteBeats loops, some generate new patterns indefinitely,
Hmm.
and like some of them are for headbanging, some of them are for like, and then you on your description you said some are for climbing forever through oceans of phase cancellation. Can you tell us about that project, how that collaboration kind of came about?
Yeah, so that's working with, so dadabots is a pair of folks that are really kind of genius AI music designers, and this was a collaboration with CJ Carr, who was working on the sort of the ByteBeats, the actual, so ByteBeats are just this string of a sequence that defines the sound. So that's sort of something that had been done in other places, but he was thinking about, and we were talking about like, how can we get this into uh, something that could play back, through web audio. So he really deconstructed that and figured out, got under the skin of how that would work. Um, but yeah, I think was coming out of the thought that something short like that could fit onto the blockchain pretty easily. I mean, as it turns out, with the rest of it and getting into an NFT, I think it was probably the biggest project out of all of mine. But it was still a cool idea that you could have this short string that could generate, you know, these endless, these endless sequences. So that was the thought that we talked about, and then we talked about how to visualize it. So it was really, and then sort of getting it into the right format. So we kind of just went back and forth. I mean, the majority of really understanding the music and understanding how the synthesis of it really rests with CJ. I mean, he figured that out really well. But yeah, we just figured out how to then tokenize it and make it into ByteBeats. And yeah, I mean, I think it's an exciting project that
yeah, it's still going on, so I
yeah.
encourage other people to check out some of the current mints, and then play around and hopefully mint some other ones in the future. But are the visuals, are they generated from the sound, or like are they both random, or how does that kind of like, how do they work together?
So they're generated from the sound, sound synthesis, and then they're different. So they're random choices of how the visualizers are chosen. So you could take the same sound synthesis and have different visualizations if you wanted to. So we kind of just use the hash to decide which visualizer you're going to get, and then that's driven by. So it's not actually an animation loop that's driving it; it's the sound. Uh, it's the sound synthesis that's driving the animation in this case. So it's as it goes and gets the samples, it's updating the image.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. I think I feel like each project is individually very unique, and I love how you combine, your curated one with the playground project, and created the visual. I mean, the physical piece. I think that's just something unique, and I think as Art Blocks grows, there's going to be a lot of other artists. I think you're like setting the tone of like cool. You can do physicals, and you can also. I just think there's so many ideas I know that have popped up in the Discord with like ways that artists can not just do something like create a mint, but then also like packaging it with something else, or maybe you're like a collector and that of like all the pieces, and then maybe you have access to like the next drop. Do you have any like big plans for the future, or after like your current project right now in Factory?
With art blocks or just in general?
In general, yeah. I mean, absolutely, yeah. Art blocks
So,
in general, either one.
Yeah, because I think I could show. So one of the things, I mean, I've got there's a collective card project that's involved a number of artists, and I did a piece for them that should be, I don't know, it keeps getting delayed, but I think it's gonna be released soon. So that's with
Oh yeah, the
yeah,
collective,
the collective. And then so excess bits is something that I did that I wanted to. So I have this idea of like reusing old projects and having them build on each other. So excess bits takes the same uh, hash from the equivalent ID of the 27-bit digital, but it renders a different renders one of these images. So I like the idea that it had like you have a pair with your 27-bit digital that you can get the the excess bits, because the idea was you have this long hash and all those random bits are unused. So can you use those excess bits? So that was a project that's out.
That's
and
cool.
then
Is that something people can currently access?
Yeah. So that's live now. There's still that's just ongoing running that people can go in and it randomly generates. I don't know if I could pull that up. I'm not going to try to pull it up, but maybe we could I don't know, send a link around.
Or is it on your website? We can share it in the Discord channel.
Yeah. So all my stuff is also linked from Linktree/Kaigani.
Okay. Yeah, I'll post that in
the
Discord.
And then what I've been focused on really since then, and I've been thinking about I need to come back around and do another generative project too. But I've been doing a lot of collabs with folks. So kind of born. I don't know if you can hear that. Let me get out of there. So yeah, kind of on the back after collaborating with CJ on the ByteBeats, I really got a taste for doing more collabs, because it's just so exciting to kind of team up with another artist and see how they approach things and how we can bring our styles together. So I did a collab with Martin, who does Savage Dogs, which is an ongoing series of these characters with kind of these bone skull heads. So we did a project where I've been applying and I've been using a technique to apply those patterns to other people's art. So that this was the first in that series, and then there's one that they take and post, and then there's one that I do as a zoomed in version and post. I did one with an artist Hansel, who had this series, and he did an animated version. I did a zoomed version.
That's very cool.
I did one. So James, or Alt James, is a artist and designer I know from my time in London, and he has a series called was it Bizu 10 by 10. So we did a Bizu bits where we kind of passed the artwork on the left back and forth, and I would apply some patterns, and then he would apply his style on top of that, his painting, and then we did that a few times, and that came up with that piece. And then I did a zoomed in version for excess Bizu bits. Crypto geishas. So I really like this team, and kind of team out of Barcelona, and they do this great series Crypto geishas, and I've talked to them a lot about as the series has progressed. So it was great to have an opportunity to jump in and do a version as well. So that one went out as the Crypto geisha, and then I did a zoomed in excess Crypto geishas, and then most recently I did a collab with Ixel Yard, or IX Shells, and
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
she's an amazing generative artist, and she had this pattern. She was doing these patterns of archetypes, which is kind of these figures. So she was exploring, how you could get these random patterns that sometimes look like masks and faces, and so she was exploring that, and then I was thinking about how to bring patterns into that, and trying a new style of pattern. So together we came up with these bitwise archetypes, and then mapped them to personality types. So there's going to be a series of 16. So far we released the first 6. But yeah, that was a really exciting project. And I took the sound from different ByteBeats and remixed the sound and slowed them down, and so I like getting the fact that I had this endless soundtrack, and I could draw from that and pull that into the sound of the bitwise archetypes.
It's awesome. I love the whole idea of like collaboration. This, I feel like the space in general is like meant for collaborations. Are there any artists out there that it would be like a dream collaboration if you were to pick like 1 or 2 other people?
Well, I've got a backlog of folks I'm trying to work with. So so there's the next one probably coming up. Well, I've got one that's a 3D project that's coming up pretty soon. Well, it's kind of a technical constraint that we need to figure out. But there's another one I'm supposed to be working with Joy. So he
Oh no, yeah.
so we're going to do kind of a kind of bitwise Joy of some sort. And there's a few that I'm forgetting that I probably shouldn't talk about until we actually have them.
Yeah.
ready.
No,
But yeah, I'm just like reaching
I-
out to folks and excited to work with them.
how does that work? Or do you know these people, or if it's someone that you're like really interested in, do you just kind of like cold message them and you're just like, hey, like I love your work, this is my work, let's do something together?
Yeah, I mean, I've done both. I mean, I'm also a collector, so sometimes I'll like someone because I'm collecting their art, and then I'll reach out to them after that and ask if they want to collaborate. Or I'll know them from the community, or we have people in common, and I can reach out to them. But yeah, mainly it's folks that I just like. I'll start by collecting their work. So I was one of the early on I was collecting IX shells, and reached out and started talking to her about what she was doing, and we're one of the few kind of Black generative artists, so we were talking about that, and it just was a
Yeah,
natural extension of that.
definitely. That's cool, man. Yeah, I just love the whole idea of collaboration, and I think we're going to see plenty more, but it's just great to see you doing it with like so many different artists. I think there's just uh yeah, a lot of room for really cool pieces down the road. So you've been around NFTs since 2017. How has I feel like a lot can obviously happen in the 4 years. I feel like even I've been only in the crypto space since October, and I feel like I've been in it for it feels like 10 years. So I feel like 4 years has got to feel like a lifetime. So how has the space like evolved over the last few years, like for better and worse?
Well, I think one thing you get is the perspective of the kind of hype cycles. So we saw people get really excited about NFTs, well, probably more crypto before, and then the crypto market crashed, and then everyone was saying that it was over, and I think through that you saw the folks that kept building and kept sort of returning to what was interesting about the technology, and building things up, and actually what happened before it got big again recently is like you were seeing some really amazing experimental stuff going on when gas was nothing, and you had like there were projects like math and words and RGB and all this cool stuff. So that's what really got me back into the space, is like seeing all these little geeky projects that people weren't thinking about, will it be worth anything, but it's just it's fun to experiment with the technology. So I think that watching that, you sort of see these layers of uh, foundations being built up, and you see like the art on chain movement is just evolving and getting richer and more robust, and you see people thinking about licensing and royalties, and splitting royalties between artists. So it's like there's stuff that's being built up, and working recently with folks from the very beginning of my career. We were talking about just how this does feel like the early days of the web, where that you're just watching these things emerge, and I think people are saying, oh, will NFTs last? And I think eventually we'll get to the point where we're not even talking about NFTs. We're just talking about, people have digital collectibles and people have digital art, and they expect that they can go through and trace the ownership of it and all this stuff. So I think it's, if you keep your eye on what's exciting about the technology and not so much like, can I flip this for, for 20 ETH, then it doesn't really matter what the market is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Is there anything that hasn't happened in the NFT space that you look forward to happening in the future, or that is like on the horizon that's going to happen, but it just hasn't hit the space yet?
Yeah, I mean, I'm dying to see like real ownership that turns into like you have the rights to, and like the Avatars team is starting to do this with artwork, but if you can imagine, like if I can own say, so my wife does short films. If I could buy an NFT and like own the rights to a short film, and then that is like the legal rights that I'm now the distributor of it. I think that's the sort of thing that would be really cool. Like when NFT ownership means something more in the real world, like in the same way that we understand ownership, but if it has like uh, you know legal implications and IP implications and all these other things, I think that's where it's going, and that's where it gets exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I'm actually visiting my in-laws right now, and I was actually explaining to them, generative art and the NFT space, and that's the first time they heard of it. And it's everyone kind of interprets it differently, but it's kind of like I think it kind of clicks like after, it takes, I think, showing them like the process, how to purchase something, but then showing them, how smart contracts kind of work. And one was like, when did crypto or like the NFT space like click for you? When was like the aha moment where you're like, you know what, like I want to explore this space, I want to like put some projects out there and just kind of like see what's going to happen.
So I mean, so crypto kind of clicked for me. Well, the NFT space kind of clicked for me with CryptoKitties, and just kind of getting into that and seeing all the how that code worked, and that was really fascinating to me, and how they how the breeding worked and everything. Um, but I think uh, doing my own projects, I mean, I kind of held back, and I wanted to watch how how the folks that were doing it better were doing it. So it's like I got involved as more of an advisor, and I could use my experience from product design or from game design, and just my general industry experience to kind of lend those types of insights. But I didn't really want to rush in and say, oh, now I can build something, until I felt more confident. And I don't know that I have done a big project of my own. Probably the biggest thing I'm doing is right now trying to launch a DAO. But in terms of like just building something, I think I've done obviously my own NFTs, but I think probably Art Blocks was the step into producing more of my own work as NFTs. Than I mean, I'd done some work with Avatars before, and doing badges for the S rank badges for that community, just for like building tools and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think it was really taking the leap as a creator, and feeling like I knew enough to be able to make the right decisions in the space, just kind of by hanging back and looking at what my friends were doing in the space.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were talking about CryptoKitties. I know that's obviously been a huge project that's been around since 2017. And I was reading your Medium website when you were talking about cracking the CryptoKitties DNA code. I'll post the link in the Discord, but can you tell us like a little bit about that, how you found out about that? And obviously you can jump into a rabbit hole with a lot of these projects, and I know you did the same with this, but like, can you tell us about it? And like, I'm sure it's got to be fun kind of just like digging into it and uncovering a lot of the fun things about that project.
Yeah, and I mean, my understanding today is probably much less sophisticated than the folks, like a lot of my friends who stayed into in breeding them and really kind of mastered the art of CryptoKitties. But I that was early on when it first launched, and I was actually I was sick from work with the flu when it launched. And I was just watching some like Reddit about Ethereum and saw this new thing, CryptoKitties. Um, so I was just kind of playing around with it and breeding and was just fascinated by the how breeding worked, and started trying to uncover like what's going on, and I can't remember the site, but there was a site at the time that was trying to post the codes. So gradually there were a few folks, and there are folks in the Discord that were trying to figure out what was going on and posting little snippets of what was going on. And I think it goes back to like what I do with my art as well, is the fact that I you know started in computers so early, when you had to understand how bits work to even generate any images on the screen. uh, Kind of got me to look at things bit by bit. So I was just looking at these codes and looking at the bits in these codes. And really the biggest thing was just seeing that they were doing something unconventional, so that they weren't breaking it, by bytes. They were breaking it in a different way. So kind of once I figured that out, it all fell into place. Um, but after that, I kind of left it alone and published it, and didn't really think as much about it. But when I reconnected with the community, I realized that folks had really studied that and used it to like uh, do well in the space. So it kind of took on a life of its own.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right, so we have to talk about Sotheby's. So the Sotheby's auction started this past Thursday, ends this upcoming Thursday. One of your pieces from the 27-bit digital will be included in the lot of 19 pieces from Art Blocks, the curated part. Can you tell us like how you found out about your piece being included? Like, what was your reaction? Like, what are your thoughts on Sotheby's and like the future of generative art in general?
Yeah, well, I was surprised. I mean, I think I found out the same way everyone else found out when it was announced. And and yeah, I was really humbled and amazed that that's going on. I mean, I think we were all watching the CryptoPunks go to Christie's, and seeing that the traditional auction houses are starting to wake up to that there's this whole world of digital art going on, and in some ways they're catching up by a lot, or trying to catch up by a lot with kind of what we know. So it's like they're making these steps to embrace it. So yeah, I mean, I was really excited to see that. I think that's a good sign for where things are going. Um, and and yeah, I think there's just like the figuring out like how to. I mean, you have to take these first steps. So it's like figuring out how do you bridge these two worlds, and it's great to see that folks are starting to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's you know it's so cool to see just in the past 6 months how Art Blocks has grown, and to know that generative artists like yourself and Snowfro and everyone else are included in this. Yeah, it's just like it's huge for the NFT space, but also generative artists, but then also Art Blocks. It has like this domino effect on like different platforms and different types of artists. So it's yeah, I look forward to seeing how the auction shakes out. But also I think it's just important that it's there and not like worry about, oh, it has to hit like X amount of money for all of us to be happy. It's like we should be appreciative that it's out there. And I think this is we're just like hitting the tip of the iceberg. So I think it's um yeah, I'm just
And I'm
I congratulations first off, and I'm happy for
Well,
you.
I'm equally and if not more excited about like how it's going out to museums as well. Like you're seeing these exhibitions open up, and they're celebrating NFTs and digital art. And Eric was talking about this place in Texas. I mean, we're waiting to see what's going on with that as a gallery. So that seems really cool. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to when we're all moving freely again. Uh, just going to going to a museum and just having like oh, this is a section dedicated to NFT art as like the norm. So when we can get to that point, and I definitely think like what Eric and Jeff and the folks are doing is really pushing that forward.
Definitely. When you see like NFTs inside of like galleries and like traditional art space, because I've seen it in different ways, and obviously, as COVID is kind of winding down and we're moving to like more live events and like seeing these galleries in person, do you envision like NFTs best seen, and it's going to depend on the type of NFT. Do you picture it better as like from a projector, like onto a wall or like a screen, or printed out and like put on the wall? I feel like there's so many different combinations. It's kind of like open up the different possibilities and how it can be expressed. Like for your art, if it were to be in the gallery, like how would you want it to be displayed?
Yeah, I mean, I think what could be cool is like if the same series could be or like a given series could have all these different types of, could be represented in different ways in different media. Like what if you had a like a 27-bit digital that's been hand painted, just because it's like you have the rules of how to do that. So you can express it in almost all sorts of different media. You can express it in print. You can express it on screen. So I think that would be cool to me, to see like generative art, but it's like the medium could be the screen. The medium could be, the rules of how to make it are written in the code, but you could use all sorts of different ways of expressing the kind of final art piece. But yeah, I mean, for things like, I think it's natural to say you want some of, if they're going to be in motion, you kind of want them to be on the screen. I think it'll be interesting to see how, because they are, truly generative art is going to be code based. So how do you, kind of translate that? I mean, how do you take something like, we struggled a lot with how to represent ByteBeats, because we wanted to do a physical version of that, and CJ came up with like this lenticular print, which is like those, you hold them at different angles and they change the image of it. But yeah, like how do you represent something like that if you're gonna do a print? So I think it presents challenges, but hopefully that's like a creative opportunity as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a question in the Discord from Druid. What is your creative process, and do you have any specific set or setting? Like, do you wait for inspiration, or is it kind of like a mix of, a combination of all that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, I've never, I mean, I guess I'm lucky in that I have too many ideas sometimes. Like it's actually like narrowing down on what should I be doing now, and not jumping onto the next thing. But I found like one way to stay inspired is through these collaborations, because it's like I could look at this at the work that Ixel had been doing, and say, oh, how could I bring that into my style, and what, how would that work? There'll be other things that are just like I'll just be experimenting and playing, like these patterns are kind of giving me no end of inspiration, and I want to bring them into see how they would be rendered in 3D as kind of patterns on fabric and all these different things. So I think that's just a continual source of inspiration for me, and thinking about what can I do with them that would, either animate them or do different things with them. So far that's been a kind of wellspring of inspiration for me.
Cool. And then when you're actually creating, like writing the code for these, do you have any like specific type of music or like genre or artists that you listen to act as like an additional set of inspiration when you're putting these together?
So I haven't. I mean, it's only recently that I started bringing in with ByteBeats, and then kind of remixing ByteBeats music into the art. If you're talking about like what am I listening to, I might be listening to like BBC One Extra or something like that, or but I don't know if there's a direct relationship between what I'm listening to and kind of what I'm doing on screen. I think I'm mostly I mean, I usually start with an idea of what I want to do, or I'll sketch that out, or kind of, you know, I did a pretty lengthy blog post on the process, and I was kind of documenting in real time as I was doing the crypto geishas piece of what I was doing. So sometimes I'll just be like writing down numbers and squares and trying to figure out what pixels are supposed to be doing. But yeah, once I have that in mind, then it just becomes, then it feels more to me like like game design, where I know what I want to do and I know how I want the canvas to behave, and it's like writing the code to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me see. There's another question. It was somebody in the Discord. They were saying, did anyone else spend hours with Kai's power tools in the 90s? Was that something that you created?
No, I wish I could take credit for that. I think that was a German Kai that I was
okay.
using. I was using those when I was in university.
All right on. Well, how about this? Like, I have a question. As someone who wants to learn to be a generative artist, or maybe just like, put their foot in the door. They're on the ArtBlocks platform. Like, what are some resources or books or people that you recommend to people who just are learning about generative art?
Well, I would say now, I mean, there's so many projects, art blocks that I would start there. I mean, it's and that, I mean, I guess it's a little tricky in that you can't, I mean, some code you'll be able to maybe read, but all the code is on chain, so you could go into the code and experiment with it that way. But I would say, I don't know. I mean, in terms of inspiration, I mean, probably the most influential. I don't know if I'm going to say his name right, but John Maeda has always been someone I come back to as a source of inspiration. In that, I remember him talking about how, like, you don't approach, or he doesn't think you should approach generative art, just for the sake of, like, the generative aspect of it. It's like you should have almost a natural thought of what you want to express, and think about how does that translate into something being generative. So if it's a thought about, like, I mean, one of my early pieces I think I posted in the interview with Jeff is, I was thinking about streams and creating, in that somehow, I was also thinking about, like, neural nets and kind of generative pathways, and I tried to make one look like a stream, and kind of went back and forth that way. So it's like I always think it's nice to map, in like my newer, my latest work is obviously mapping to technology, but it's mapping to a technology of my youth. And I try to come up with rules about what I can do or what I can't do with the pixels, and kind of work within that design framework. So yeah, so I don't know. I think everyone sort of has to find a personal source of inspiration, and just work from there, and then think about what you want to do, and think about, uh, I don't know, maybe the how I don't know how you, yeah, I can only speak for myself. Like, I approach it in thinking about, a combination of what I want to do, but then it's also just like playing and just seeing, like, well, what if I try this, and what if, what sort of patterns are coming up, am I coming up with, if I do this in the code. So I think it's important to play with things, and see what happens. So whatever tool and whatever, process gets you there, I think it's just find whatever medium you can play in, and see how that can create something generative.
Yeah, I can picture it like evolving over time. Like, you have this small idea, and then you're kind of like playing around with it, and then eventually you'll be like, oh yeah, this is exactly like what I want to do. Cool. All right. Well, I mean, we got about a few minutes, maybe about 10, 15 minutes left. In the Discord, I'm going to go ahead and throw the Squiggle giveaway bot in there. If people want to go ahead and click on the ta-da emoji over there. Perfect. It looks like it's working. And then you can click the beer for good luck. It looks like that's a weekly tradition for everyone. But yeah, we'll go ahead. That'll be going for about 2 minutes, 40 more seconds, and it'll automatically pump out a winner for the Chromie Squiggle giveaway. Do you have any like other projects or anything else that you wanted to like talk about before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of been pulled. I mean, I'm trying to get back to my art, but I have been pulled into this whole, Meebits DAO thing. So I'll give that a plug, because this,
Yeah,
captured
yeah,
folks'
definitely.
attention, and we're excited about, like, figuring out this whole, kind of representative. So again, it's using the same kind of game design, uh, you know, way of looking at the world, but I've been thinking about how do you apply that to community voting and creating a fair system of governing the DAO and balancing it so that it's not going to be dominated by whales. It's not going to be sort of you can't manipulate it easily. So coming up with that system has been a lot of fun from a kind of systems design standpoint.
Yeah, cool. And then what about like Twitter or social media? Like how can people reach out to you besides like Discord? Is there if you want to plug some of your social media?
Yeah, just Twitter primarily, and that's the best channel to reach me on. So at Kaigani, Kaigani. Yeah, that's
Cool.
the best way.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, it's been great just hearing about your projects. You're obviously one of the early adopters of just like the NFT space and just like learning about that. I think is so cool. And, I think there's a big chunk of us in the art blocks community that are just maybe just now getting into art blocks or NFTs. And, I think just hearing, from you and, Snowfro, you guys have such a wealth of knowledge, and it's like so important for people that are getting into the space to kind of like learn, how things have evolved like over time. Cool. Well, we got about 30 seconds left in the giveaway bot. I'll go ahead and plug it again in the Discord. Just make sure you click it once, because if you click it twice, then it'll undo your emoji, or clicking on the emoji. So we got about 10 seconds left. All right. Oh, is that Purple Hat? I think, is that Rockland? I think it might be Rockland.
Yeah, that's the new Rockland, Purple Heart.
Well,
Purple Hat, sorry.
Well, congratulations, Rockland. That's awesome. Yeah, Purple Hat.
Sweet.
Looks like changing the name gave him some good luck.
Wait, so is that your it's a new ENS too? Yep, Purple Hat ETH. All right. All right, let's do some Chromie Squiggle mints. Kai, it's really awesome to hear all that about your work and your history in this. Is pretty amazing, man. Congrats.
Thanks.
Purple Hat. Oh man, I gotta say goodbye to that chonky chonk.
Yeah, the fat squiggle, the bold.
Let's do that again because we have a little connection issue here. Okay, Purple Hat on ETH. I saw that the Gary V. Rockland. All right, let's do 20. I hadn't minted a ByteBeats for a while, and man, I got a crazy one. I don't know if y'all were ever into Crystal Castles, but man, it's just like they either have the melodic things at Crystal Castles, but every now and then Crystal Castles would just go into this crazy thing. Oh wow, super colorful.
Ooh,
congrats, Jake.
Super nice. Awesome. It's very cool.
Man, what number of Squiggle are we on? I guess we're at 9166.
We got a couple left.
Yeah. at least a few weeks of these mints to go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as we kind of like wrap things up, Snowfro, did you have anything that you wanted to let the community know? Are there any? We have an upcoming Curated project this upcoming Friday. Is there anything else? Maybe updates on Marfa or website? Anything else?
Man, yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening in the background. It's kind of crazy. Like I keep trying to keep up with the overall crypto space, and I've kind of gotten to a point where I just don't even keep up with crypto anymore. Like it's pretty sad. But yeah, no, we're concentrating on some Sotheby stuff. Really disappointed with the way that they displayed the art blocks pieces. Lots of people have kind of stood up and mentioned it to them, and it sounds like they're working on it. I think by tomorrow everything should be nice and smooth, which it is what it is. But they're working on it. They're aware of it. Where, you know, I mean, in terms of like the Sotheby's thing, like I really hope that that thing sells for a bunch of money, but you got to also consider like it's a weird concept that on the secondary market you can go pick up, you know, a full curated set for about $30,000. So to me, you know, that might not have been the case when ETH was 4,700 or 4,600 or whatever. So, you know, I would be very grateful, I think, if it even gets up to that point. Like, why would we inflate a market more than it needs to be? Now, the fact that it's a founder set and the fact that it's going to Sotheby's and the fact that, you know, it's going to charity, yeah, I would love it for it to, you know, drive the price up a little bit more. But ultimately, the fact that it's at Sotheby's, and I, you know, for me, the joy of being personally at Sotheby's, and then, believe it or not, the joy to have all these artists at Sotheby's is even greater for me. Just, I feel kind of responsible, and it makes me really, really happy. So, I mean, you know, the fact we already have a $22,000 bid makes me super happy. So that's cool. And yeah, Jeff and Ben and I are going to Marfa on Thursday to meet in person for the first time. I know Hannah. I actually went to high school with Hannah, so I've known her for a really long time. She lives in Marfa, so she's hosting us for the weekend, and I get to show them around, and Hannah gets to show us all around. So we might be a little bit out of pocket on Thursday, but we're all going to be together for the mint, for the drop on Friday, which I think is going to be kind of a cool experience. Although no one's ever seen me. I don't even join the audio channels because I'm so terrified that something's going to go wrong and then I'm going to be like stuttering during. But this time, I guess we'll maybe join together from the Art Blocks house. Something really interesting about the Marfa house is, you know, Hannah has a desk set up there, and she mentions that like 5 people a day just walk in. But the only thing there, like, it doesn't say Art Blocks. There's just one of those blue canvas frames that's just flipping through a bunch of curated pieces. That's literally the only thing that's there, and people literally just walk into the house, and she's gotten to have conversations with, at this point, it sounds like, you know, dozens of people about Art Blocks, and they're all curious and they're all really excited. And you know, that's the vision there with Marfa, is that, you know, it's a place people go to explore and to learn about art and to learn about new stuff. And so, you know, it kind of is validating a little bit of the craziness of, you know, getting a house in Marfa and putting it up so remotely. But yeah, we will soon have a cool little Art Blocks tumbler with a squiggle on it that you can only get if you go to Marfa, and, you know, hopefully more things that'll drag some people out there. So yeah, we really hope to host as many people from this community and from the real art world there. It's a pilgrimage. It's definitely a journey, but you know, there's a reason why we set it up, you know, 9 hours driving from Houston and literally 3 hours from the nearest airport. There's a really good reason for that, and I think everyone will understand it once they get there. So yeah, really excited to see Jeff and Ben in person. We'll say hello from there. And I think that's it from my end, unless anybody has any questions. I haven't really been checking out the channel, but, you know, if anybody has any questions, please.
Looks like Alexi was asking about any news on the new website.
Yeah, so Ben Y has been making some pretty awesome progress, and he shares it with me every Monday. And right now the front end is functional, and I believe the artist interface, which is a beast, is functional. We were toying with releasing it with or without like a page for you to be able to view your own assets in a cooler way than mine. And you know, the way that I've got it set up, I think is fine if you've got like, you know, maybe like up to 100 mints, but it's completely dysfunctional if you have more than that. So, you know, I think we're you know, toying with the idea of kind of making a slightly gallery type appearance where you get to pick your favorite ones, and then easier way to get to all the projects. For any of the artists that are hearing this, we are going to need your help to modify the plugins scripts, because you're going to be able to sort on our website, but it's going to require like a update to the plugin script. So, you know, we'll be reaching out to you guys and getting that going here pretty soon. And also for the artists that are out there, we're going to start. I think we're finalizing like an agreement for you to list your art, and this will be for previous artists as well. So we'll be reaching out to you guys to sign on that, and that's really just to protect you guys more than anything. A lot of these questions come up about like owning the algorithm and owning the outputs, and we just wanted to kind of put something more formal in a terms of conditions for the user and like for the artist to make sure that nobody gets the impression that they're buying the algo, because man, the algo is like our babies. It's like we want to protect that as much as possible and let people enjoy the outputs of the algo. But yeah, no, there's just continuous stuff in the background, lots of really fun physical applications for art block stuff, potential gaming applications for art block stuff, and stuff that we'll share as soon as it makes sense to share. So yeah, stay tuned and thanks for listening. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Awesome. Well, Kai, do you have any final notes that you want to add before we sign off for the day?
Oh no, just thanks again for having me, and it's great to be a part of this community.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you being here. I also want to just add that, to the left, if you're watching this on YouTube, to the left over here, you'll see the Discord chat. And this is kind of like where the community lives. This is where artists chat, with collectors or people that are just interested in generative art. So I encourage you, if you're watching this video, to jump in the Discord channel. If you have any questions, tech questions, how to buy art, how to learning about generative art, there's a great group of people that would love to help you out. So the link to the Discord channel will be in the description of this YouTube video. So I just encourage you to check it out. Just jump in any of the channels. People are here to help, and we want generative art, and we want these artists and collectors. Yeah, we're just kind of building a family, and we want you to be a part of it. So, but yeah, that's all we have tonight. And I just want to thank Kai again for being our special guest this evening, and for Snowfro for obviously creating this fantastic space for us to chat and to have these discussions. So I just want to thank everyone for continuing to support us and to support this platform. Cool. And with
Kai,
that,
thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ponyo, thank you so much. Luke, thank you again. This is rad.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Luke. All right. Well, we appreciate you, and we'll see you again next week. Have a good night.
All right. Good night, everybody.